about the Contax 3. As I mentioned in part 1, is that I bought this camera in an auction just to have an original Contax, because my previous experiences with the Kiev weren't that great. And this was for sale for relatively low money. I think I paid like 150 euros for it, including the 1.5 50 mil.
That's very cheap, yes.
Yeah, that's very cheap, because normally only the lens will cost that much.
Yeah, even more.
Even more, yeah. And when the camera arrived, I must admit, I looked at the camera briefly. I checked if all the dials were working and if the shutter was working, and it was all okay. I thought, well, when I have the time, then I will try to polish it and make it pretty again, because it was quite dirty and there was some oxidation on the housing. So a week later, I put it on the dining table, and there was a slight sun coming through the window, and that hit the front lens. And then something strange happened, because I saw the lens was coated. And then I started to compare the serial numbers, and this camera is from May 1940, and the lens is from July 1940, and that's when I called you. Because you have to take into account that in the 1940s, up until 1947, coating was not common practice, not at all. I knew that in the 40s there was already coating, but it was a state secret. It was used for military purposes, like binoculars or rangefinders for artillery, or even for bombing London. But not on cameras, as far as I knew. So that's really why this whole Contax thing blew up. Because I started investigating how is it possible that my humble Contax 3 had a 1.5 lens with its original cap.
And the lens, of course, the 1.5
was an expensive lens.
In the standard state, already an expensive lens.
Yeah, but what is that coating doing on my camera? And then I suddenly saw that the camera had an X contact on the side of the camera. And to be that honest, I did not. I noticed it, but
it didn't strike you as peculiar.
No, not because only after you said to me that Contaxes came exclusively from the factory without an X contact.
Yeah, that's right.
Or without flash synchronization. That there was an X contact,
no.
I didn't even realize. So we started searching, and if it was a state secret, and given the fact that it's 1940, it should have been in government operation. This camera, that's or some high up official protected this camera and used it as a private person. But to be dead honest, I don't believe so. Then we started looking for, okay, if it's military, which brand? Was it the Air Force? Well, no. The Air Force used exclusively Leica.
Yeah.
The land-based military, the Wehrmacht, also
Same.
exclusively Leica. And then you told me that only the Kriegsmarine used Contax, but exclusively the Contax too. Okay, and
Yeah, they had good taste, of course. Those guys.
Yeah,
they,
yeah.
they used a pretty.
yeah.
version.
I'm still messed around that I think that this is still pretty. The Contax 2 actually was standard issue on every U-boat. Every U-boat carried one or maybe two Contax 2 cameras. Why, I don't know.
No, so I've been told.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. It's actually, I looked up some documents at the Kriegsmarine archives, and then you can see what every U-boat has in store, and it says Contax 2, but it's always the 2.0 sonar, not the 1.5. Now then.
No.
We started searching the internet, and well, then you went up in the wormhole, in all the nooks and crannies. We searched and searched and searched and searched. And mind you, the factory of the Contax was bombed in 1944, including all the documents. So we had little snippets, very tiny pieces of information, and then suddenly an old ad from a forum in 1998, a repair guy somewhere in the United States, I think it was New York, he dropped a line on that forum about a Contax 3 he had repaired, and to his amazement he saw that the camera had flash synchronization. Not only that, and here it comes the big one, it was a factory-made flash synchronization with a special mold on the shutter chassis that only could have been done by the factory itself, because this is the flash chassis of a Contax 2. As you can see, there's nothing here which could house a flash synchronization that could go off with the first curtain going down. But the camera he had a little mold here with a tiny switch and some extra bumper on the first curtain. Now, I didn't want to open up my camera, and it is known that Contax cameras were synchronized by third parties like this one is, but it's always on the front, never on the side. So I left it alone until the moment I dropped my camera. And
it was almost lucky.
It was, because then I had to open it up. And to my amazement, I found that same mold as the guy in New York did. So then I knew for sure the flash synchronization on my 3 is factory made. But the overall consensus is that there were no Contax 2 or 3s synchronized from the factory. So that's news. And well, we start searching and searching and searching and searching, and we never found an official document telling us something about synchronization. And then I started to investigate the camera a little bit more. I checked how the synchronization worked, and if it worked, and it does, it's still working. But then I realized it's not a light bulb synchronization, but it's an X-contact. And X-contact is for electronic flashes. Now, that was a bit disturbing, because in 1940, I've got a camera with coating. I've got a camera with flash synchronization, which I'm now sure was been made by the factory, but it has an X synchronization. Who would need something like that?
The camera of the New York guy.
Yeah.
Was it also X-Sync?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. The strange thing is that these cameras with third-party synchronization is also X-Sync for electronic flashes, but these are dated much later. Some even as early as the 1960s. Yes. So then electronic flashes were more common, not very common, but more common than back in the day. And then when you realize that it is X coating, it's a 3, so it's the more expensive camera than compared to the 2. That's why I like it.
You show off.
Who would own such a product like this if it's not for the common people? It was not meant for the common people. So who? And then we started thinking, was it the normal police? No. The first thing you ask yourself, who would need a camera with flash synchronization, with an electronic flash? Who? In 1940.
And who had the money for it?
And who had the money for it? And if it's a state secret, the coating, who would use it? Well, to be dead honest, the only thing, the big thing was, of course, that the coating was there and there was flash synchronization on it. But then, yeah, we started to realize, well, it should be a state official, perhaps even some sort of police. And if it's not the common police, what kind of police did you have in Germany back in the day in the 1940s? Well, the only one that popped up in my mind was the Gestapo. So perhaps.
No. Of course, you can't never be sure.
No, absolutely not. But that's the only surface, if you can call it a surface, in Germany that would have rightly used a camera like this, because in a scene of a crime at night, for instance, if evidence photos has to be taken, you can use a camera like this with coating on the lens, with X contact, if you are the happy carrier of an electronic flash set, which was a carrier set, right? You had a big suitcase with batteries in it, and with it was a very cumbersome piece of kit. But yeah, that's the only thing and the only way I know for sure that that perhaps a surface like that could have some use of a Contax 3 with an X contact. And so I promised myself I only take photos with this one of very pretty things. Because you never know what it...
No.
What it took.
Yes, it may have seen dreadful things.
Yeah. Maybe so, but it's an enigma. And I'm not sure what to think of it, to be honest. But yeah, that's my curiosity that takes the better of me, and yeah, and then you come up with a story like this, and it's just a strange thing. And years later, they made a mini-series about it, Stranger Things. Well, that's about it. That wraps it up. That's the Contax story.
That's all, folks.
The movie. And now we're going to drink beer. Lots of it.